Guys, Kristen Collins, hope you're doing well. Wanting to touch in with you this week. Are you living your life right now through the lens of fear? And is that fear holding you back from living a life of happiness and joy and in the present moment and even of optimal well-being? I have really made a commitment to self that I am no longer interested in surviving. I really want to be here thriving in this lifetime and on this planet. And being aware when I am reacting to fear is something that's bubbling up big time this week. And I want to help support community and share space so that we can identify that we are being fear-based and then have some tactical, actionable ways that we can go ahead and shift that lens. So my question to you is if you can reflect on a time when you were scared to death of not being in control of something or potentially wondering, I can't dare take that step in that direction because I have no guaranteed outcome. I don't know, if I leave this relationship, nobody's probably ever going to love me again, and I might as well stay here. Think of a time, and maybe the time is now, that you are stuck sitting there in that fear, scared to move forward. Then I want you to think about a time where you got to the other side of a change or other side of something that deemed to be happening to you that was threatening, only to reflect and look back and be like, oh my gosh, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. In my book, Her Phoenix Rising, I talk a lot about this, where I share authentic stories about things that were devastating or scary as all get out, or things that I worked really, really hard not to have happen, or things that I worked really, really hard to attain, and how they had different outcomes, and they ended up being the biggest blessings. Because we have to remember that life isn't about that destination, right? Life is about the journey that we're on, and that's the ebbing and the flowing of that. And when we release and go in flow, we can find lessons and joys in both things that we deem wonderful and positive and things that we deem challenging. So ways to support your journey to even identify if you are being fear-based, and then what are some tools and techniques to move through that. Number one, first and foremost, every single week, is to stop and be present. And how do we go about stopping and being present? Taking those deep breaths when we first wake up, maybe going to bed at night and thinking about 3 things we're grateful for and taking those deep breaths. Those are just really simple ways, if you don't want to carve out 5, 10, 15 minutes to actually take yourself through a formal meditation. Just take some of those deep breaths and really become aware of that present moment. And then from there to actually journal or contemplate, what is it that's holding me back? What am I so scared of? My friend and colleague, Heather Christie, who many of us know because we talk about her all the time, she was the one that first walked me through to face a fear that I was unaware that I had. And she kept saying, okay, so worst case scenario, then what happens? Okay, worst case scenario, so then what happens? And I kept going and I kept going, and I realized I had such a mental block because I had this fabricated, horrific potential outcome that really, when I faced that fear and thought about it and sat in the discomfort of it, I realized, oh my God, it's really not that bad. I'll get through that. And it really freed me to not let my lens be fear. And remember, what we put out is what we attract. So if we're going to spend all of our time being fear-based and putting out that intention and putting our energy into that fear, guess what? Just like my first marriage, scared to death, definitely not interested in getting a divorce. What did I attract? Exactly that. And that was just like, if you can't have a bigger life experience than that on attracting your fears. So sit in that present moment, do that exercise, think about what you fear, allow yourself to think about that fear and walk towards it. Always on my website, KristenCollins.com, I try to showcase and offer ways that support your journey. And this week, talking about fear, the latest episode of my podcast, Find the Spark Within, is a conversation with the amazing leader, Ray Higdon. And Ray and his beautiful wife, Jessica, wrote a book that we talk about, Time, Money, and Freedom, 10 Simple Rules to Redefine What's Possible and Radically Reshape Your Life. And I'll go ahead and add a link to this in the notes. There's many great takeaways. Ray and I dive into a lot of them in our episode of Find the Spark Within, but one of my favorite things he walks us through in this book is identifying what is holding you back. What is that fear? And he tells the greatest story, many great stories about fear-based, and him just saying, you know what, I'm gonna move forward and walk through that fear. And people thought he was crazy. And he lost his fortune, a number of times, but he continued on his path. But he used to work in a grocery store, and then lo and behold, he ended up quitting and went back many years later, and his same manager was still there doing the same thing over and over, stuck because of fear. So Ray and Jess, thank you so much for your amazing work to help us identify what is holding us back, what is our fear. Thank you for being a guest on my podcast. You guys can again pick up their new book. I'll put the link below. Also, Ray and Jess put out content daily on YouTube and through their Higdon group. So check out Ray and Jess. So I hope that this week, just being aware of what your fears are, and if you're acting out of fear, how are you showing up? How do we shift that lens? Because we don't want to attract that fear. So let's go ahead and address it and walk through it and find out what's holding us back. Because none of us came here just to survive this life. We came here to be joyful, to be loved, to be happy, and to live that life of optimal well-being and to thrive. So that's exactly why each and every week I get on here and try to share a message. Not only does it fuel me and help me on my journey, because every week, there's some ups, there's some downs, and I've been in that fear-based space recently, and I was like, we have to talk about this, and we have to step through this together. So as always, thank you for your amazing, soul-satiating and fueling feedback, your shares, your kindness. So many of you reached out this week out of nowhere and just shared some of your takeaways. And I was like, thank you. I needed it last week. You must have felt that. And I'm so reignited. And I have some really cool things that are coming down the pipeline because of your inspiration. So thank you. Keep them coming. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast and or to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so. And the greatest gift you can give me and our shared community is to share so that others that maybe are interested in understanding, oh my gosh, I'm looking at this through the lens of fear, and that's not going to help me. That energetically is me showing up and projecting, and I'm going to attract that. Let's help one another to identify this and know that we all go through highs and lows. So your shares help a lot with that. Thank you. So until next time, I hope you have a great week, and I hope this content supports you on your journey. I'll see you next time. Be love. Bye.